Welcome to Press TV's in-depth look at the Yemen revolution. First, we're going to give you the latest news coming out of Yemen as protests are continuing there against the long-time rule of President Ali Abdullah Saleh. The latest reports are telling us several people have been hurt in clashes between regime forces and protesters who were camping for months demanding President Saleh's ouster. Clashes erupted in the southern city of Aden after regime forces fired into the air at the protest camp which is set up in that city. The demonstrators responded by throwing stones, we're hearing. Aden's residents say the army has blocked roads throughout the city to prevent a march on the presidential palace. These pictures you're seeing from various cities across Yemen, huge crowds there of people protesting on the streets. Meanwhile, opposition parties on the political front have been saying that they're going to meet later in the day to discuss a modified Arab mediation deal. Now, a deal to resolve the crisis has been proposed by the Persian Gulf Cooperation Council. That deal has been on and off for times now. President Saleh accepting and then rejecting it, and a similar stance by the opposition. Now they've proposed a modified deal, and reportedly under this new proposal, Saleh should sign the deal first as chairman of the ruling party and then as president, but the opposition has been insisting that Saleh should sign that deal only as president. We're not sure yet on what position, of course, the opposition is going to take on the deal and whether it's going to work out. But let's discuss the situation now in Yemen with two of our guests. Joining us on the line from the Yemeni capital, Sana'a, is Ghassan Abulohom. He's from the Yemen Youth Movement. And also live in London with us is Mohamed, political opposition activist, also former advisor to Yemeni PM and a former Yemeni ambassador to Lebanon and Cyprus. I'd like to welcome you both. And I'll start my first question from Mr. Abulohom in Sana'a. Mr. Abulohom, speaking of the deal that's still under discussion between the opposition and, of course, the Arab mediators, first of all, do you think that this new modified deal, so to speak, is going to work out?
Well, we have been informed that there is a fourth or an amended initiative that is being discussed now. We really cannot, I do not really have a clear answer to this, but we are not concerned about that, hoping that it should be modified as per the demands and as per what was requested from the youth. If so, I think there is no reason for it not to be signed.
Well, Mr. Abulohom, the question here is, do the opposition represent the public and, of course, the protesters who are in these huge numbers? We can see them in the streets protesting. I mean, do you think that it is wise on the part of the opposition at this particular point in time to go and enter into talks on a deal that may not be welcomed by the public?
We have conveyed all our comments and all our requirements on the previous initiatives that have been addressed. They have been stated clearly to the opposition. The opposition shall sign as per our requirements. If they do not fulfill our requirements, we most probably think that the opposition will not sign.
Right, what are those requirements then? What are the requirements, Mr. Abulohom? Could you tell us what requirements you're talking about when you say that you want those demands to be met? What are they specifically?
No guarantees.
Right.
Immediate departure for the president. These two major points.
All right. No guarantees, of course, meaning their immunity from prosecution that was earlier proposed by the Arab mediators. I'd like to go to London now and discuss this with Mr. Qubaty there. Mr. Qubaty, speaking of the demands that we're just hearing, no guarantees for immunity and the immediate departure of President Saleh, with those demands coming from the opposition, if they are, do you think that there is any hope for this deal to work?
Practically, I think the whole bargain or transaction was built on the premise that guarantees given to the president that he would not be prosecuted or pursued for his crimes vis-a-vis his early departure from power. I think as long as there is an early departure from power, the question of guarantees given would not stand at all in front of any court in the West or anywhere else. And the president knows that. He knows that his only practical guarantees is for him to disappear somewhere in one of the GCC countries, and most likely in Saudi Arabia, where he cannot be extradited. Even if he is given guarantees, and they are assured by the parliament, okay? First of all, this parliament has lost its term. It's not actually any legal at any time. But even if it's given on a basis of a constitutional sort of arrangement, such guarantees could easily be thwarted at any time. So the president knows that. The question is he willing to leave or not? And now he is facing, actually he's cornered. He knows that the GCC, especially after the Qataris have pulled out from the initiative, and I think two other perhaps GCC countries will be about to pull, it's our brothers in Saudi Arabia have got to push him and say, sign it. If he signs it, then it's the end of the game, because I'm sure then all of his entourage and the people who are, who have been around him will just fall around and leave him alone. But I think the man is also, he's a clever, he's a fox. I think he's trying to buy some more time by many excuses. Today we're hearing that he says, well, I'm going to sign it, but I don't want Mr. Mohamed Salim Basundua, who is his advisor, and he's the leading sort of personality in the so-called National Dialogue Committee. He said, I would only sign it if it's signed by the GMP leader, Mr. Yassin Said Nu'man. It doesn't make a difference. As long as he signs and he agrees to leave the country, any guarantees given would not stand. Anybody could take a pot shot at those guarantees and they will fall. And he has been informed by the West and even by the Arab countries that those guarantees will not stand at all. It's only, it depends on the will of the Yemeni people if they want to change them.
All right. I'd like to continue with this point, but I'm just hearing that our correspondent Mohamed is joining us on the line from Sana'a with all the latest. Let's just get an update from him before we continue with this discussion. Mohamed, tell us what's been happening today, both in Sana'a and we're also hearing of deadly clashes in Aden, aren't we?
I'm sorry, the connection is not that clear, but I believe your question was an update on what's happening today in Sana'a. It's been relatively calm the past few days. There was a planned march that was to occur today. It was canceled last minute, and they're still deciding on which day to do a march for later this week. So far, there hasn't been much going on in the city of Sana'a.
And Mohamed, we were discussing the modified, so to speak, deal that's being discussed now by the opposition and the Arab mediators. Tell us what people on the streets there in Yemen have been reacting. How have they been reacting to this proposed deal and how it may resolve the crisis?
Generally, people I talk to have no faith in the GCC, and they believe it's just something that they're going to have to do for themselves. They really don't feel that the GCC has their best interests at stake, and they feel that if their intentions were genuine, they would have forced Saleh to step down by now. But all this for stalemate and his dragging his feet, they don't have any faith right now in the GCC.
All right, Mohamed, our correspondent, giving us an update there from the streets of Sana'a. Thanks very much. Let's go back to Mr. Abu Loham now, who's also with us on the line from Sana'a. Mr. Abu Loham, when we speak of trust in the GCC, the Persian Gulf Cooperation Council and these Arab mediators, do you think that they are after their own interests, as critics have been arguing and saying that they should not be the ones that should be stepping in here because they may, in their words, be trying to influence even the transition period in Yemen in line with their interests?
We hope that this is not, given the circumstances and the efforts that have been put, it seems that they are heading towards this direction. And it is a disappointment to us.
So you think that there wasn't any way that the situation in Yemen could be resolved without intervention by GCC?
We think that a lot of internal initiatives have been put, and they were actually more serious, they were more comprehensive, more detailed, but the President needed an international guarantee for his safety, which is known that cannot be given.
an international guarantee. Mr. Qubaty, you were speaking there of, you say, efforts by the president to get out of the situation, maybe to even try and flee to Saudi Arabia, where he would not be extradited if a trial is proposed for him. Do you think, though, that the Yemeni president at this point in time is losing his support among his Arab allies, and rather that their interest in Yemen is not the interest to save necessarily the president, but to save their interests there?
Obviously, we have got to be practical. We are sure that in politics, everybody would be serving their own interests. But as I have said, it's not the president actually willing to fly to Saudi Arabia. That is what is offered to him. What is offered to him in that deal is he's going to have to move to one of these GCC countries and disappear there. Anywhere else, all guarantees given would not stand at all a pot shot by anybody. So the man he knows that he's going to be cornered, and he doesn't want to sign that deal. This is the deal which has been offered for the past 7 weeks now for him. He is looking for, as I have said many times, the man is trying to push the whole region into a state of catastrophe, into a state of anarchy and disintegration. He wants Yemen to be fragmented. He is looking for a civil war and a sort of inside battling by everybody. And that would be his real guarantees, because he thinks if Yemen moves into anarchy and complete sort of disintegration, then he could disappear anywhere. There is no credible authority to follow him for his crimes and for the monies and for the funds he has embezzled the country from. But I think that now it's high time that our brothers in the GCC realize that this man is actually now driving the whole region into very deep waters. I could see, and everybody following should see, that there is a catastrophe impending. There is a complete disaster of a very huge magnitude. It is staring at us and walking. So all parties concerned, local, regional and international, have got to move swiftly to prevent such a catastrophe, which is going to cause a lot of repercussions. Our brothers in Saudi should know that we in Yemen, we have received at least 1 million of the Somali refugees, in spite of having a sea separating us between them, the Gulf of Aden. But if things in Yemen falter, and we move into a sort of internal anarchy, then they should expect 3 to 5 million people, refugees, moving into the country.
Right.
So the international community should know what Ali Abdullah Saleh has been claiming that he's preventing Al-Qaeda from appearing there. He is actually driving towards anarchy in Yemen, and we have got now Al-Qaeda made of 100 person or 200 people, which he has already he has grown up. We will end up with this situation and this scenario of Al-Qaeda of 2,000, even 10,000 people. So the world has got to move. I don't understand myself what sort of price have the Yemenis have got to pay. At what cost have the international community and our brothers in the GCC will come out clearly and say, the man, time is finished, move out, because you are not only actually harming the Yemeni stability, but you are actually now threatening the stability and peace.
And that is a major question,
and
Mr.
security
Qubaty,
of the whole region.
That is the major question here, Mr. Qubaty, of how the international community has been dealing with this. We've been hearing a lot from the streets of San. Our protesters, they're saying, how long should you wait and watch us being killed here before you take action? Mr. Abu Lahom, do you think that there has been rather a lack of enough pressure on President Saleh in view of this deal, and in view of how he should leave Yemen or he should not leave Yemen? Practically, the mediation efforts have been aimed at reaching some kind of compromise with a person who's accused and is still rather killing protesters on the streets. Why should there be any dialogue with him anyway at the first place? Do you think that this is largely because there's not been enough pressure, not just from the Arab allies, but also from the president's former Western allies, including the United States?
Definitely that is true. If you recall, we are now discussing the fifth initiative that has been amended. The first initiative clearly stated the step down of the president has been amended until we have reached now the fifth version, which clearly indicates that the GCC the European Union and the USA are very tolerant and are actually in dialogue with the President himself to satisfy his approach.
Yeah, Mr. Abulaham, just speaking and pointing to the issue that Mr. Qubaty referred there, he was saying that President Saleh was trying to buy time, and one part of that effort is creating anarchy in Yemen and creating a situation that would be similar to a civil war. Do you think that indeed Yemen is heading to a state of civil war now?
He is trying by all measures to do that, paying tribal men, distributing weapons, inviting tribal men from other cities and governorates into Sana'a to create chaos. But we as a youth are insisting on it being a peaceful revolution, a peaceful demonstration and protest. And until now, we have succeeded to avoid all that. But if it takes more time, he is hoping by that to create or get the country into a civil war.
Well, Mr. Qubaty, you said in your remarks you referred rather to the issue of Al-Qaeda and how the Yemeni president was using that issue as a threat. We've been hearing him repeatedly saying that there is a threat of an Al-Qaeda rise if he does leave and if the situation in the country gets out of hand. How serious is the threat of Al-Qaeda? Even if we see the scenario of the Yemeni president leaving, does that mean there's going to be an open ground for Al-Qaeda to launch attacks or to get some kind of standing in Yemen?
Well, as I said, the president, he's trying to drive the whole situation in Yemen into a state of complete disintegration so that there could be some easier, to put footholds for any group like those. But you see, this man has all the time played that game and that card very well. Al-Qaeda has been his #1 fundraiser for money from Saudi Arabia and from the United States. And he has been all these past years, he has been playing a game. He doesn't want to kill the wolf, and he wants to keep him there so that he could extract more money from them. But the thing which we have got to take into consideration, apart from what I have said previously, the economical situation now in Yemen is getting so bad. We have been seeing here some of the ministers here in UK with some of the businessmen and a lot of intellectuals and some as well, people who are working in the judiciary and judges. And we have told them that the situation is getting very grave. The whole country could fall apart because of the economical situation. Then if you move into such a situation, then Ali Abdullah Saleh has managed actually to punish the West by getting the situation so badly out of control, so that gives the chance for Al-Qaeda to grow up even worse than it is now. But we want to reassure our friends in the West, we want to reassure our brothers in the area around, that the coming authority would be actually the authority which can clamp down on Al-Qaeda activities. We do understand that the president has given a lot of room for especially for the West to carry out some clandestine operations and to carry out a lot of covert activities. But we know that, and we have told them, Ali Abdullah Saleh has been chewing cud on both cheeks, as we say in Yemen. He's giving them chances to work on the ground, but on the other hand, he is all the time reporting to Al-Qaeda any movement which is done by those Westerners. So for the past 5 years, they haven't managed actually to clamp down or to actually get the Qaeda activity into to lower it. On the contrary, things have been getting worse. So our friends in the West should realize that the man is playing a game, and it's now, I think they have realized that game. It's only our brothers in the GCC now who have been asking for time to deal with this situation because Yemen is on their back door.
Well, Mr. Qubaty, if the West, as you say, has realized that, sorry for jumping in here because we're running out of time, if the West has realized that, you say, that the Yemeni president is playing with them, why do you think we haven't been seeing the kind of pressure that we're seeing, for instance, on Libya, that we've been seeing on Egypt earlier on and Tunisia? Why isn't there any direct calls on him?
I agree that I have pointed out to that, and I've said at the beginning, what cost do you want us to pay? But obviously we have asked, we said it's enough for President Obama. Now they speak with the President Ali Abdullah Saleh over the phone, and King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia. They have got to whisper the correct words for the man and tell him time is finished and you have got to leave. Or else actually they are actually compromising their own interest in Yemen and in the region at large.
Right, let's just put this question to Mr. Abulahum. Mr. Abulahum, just speaking in these last few minutes that we have of the post rather Saleh era there and the new Yemen, do you think that the opposition, your own youth movement and the protesters there in Yemen are prepared and have the proper resources to deal with the situation that they're facing in Yemen, the economic situation as was pointed out here, the security situation, the alleged threat of Al-Qaeda?
Definitely. You know, one major issue is the opposition has failed to satisfy the West and to convince the West and to inform the West that they are capable, and one of their major targets will be fighting Al-Qaeda and terrorism in Yemen. We have a plan for after Ali. The Ali regime has failed on the political aspects, on the economical aspects, on fighting Al-Qaeda itself. It is a failure regime in all aspects. We have a plan for after Ali, a clear plan and a clear vision towards building a new democratic nation in the future.
And right, I'd like to put the last comments to Mr. Qubaty. Mr. Qubaty, if you could also tell us in a minute's time how optimistic you are. Do you think that the opposition is prepared to take on the role that was just explained there by Mr. Abulahum?
Yes, I think Mr. Abulahum is actually, he doesn't mean the opposition, which is the formal opposition, and everybody else means that we have got to enter into a dialogue and get all parties concerned, all opposition groups, and the different sections of the opposition inside and outside the country, Houthis, Southerners, the youths now, everybody else, and to really reaffirm their commitment towards the creation of a civic and a democratic country which will actually shoulder its responsibilities either locally, regionally, and internationally. And there is great chance for that as long as our brothers now in the GCC and the world at large moves very quickly to push this man out, and they've got a lot of leverage. We haven't heard any freezing of their assets. We haven't heard any travel ban on them. We haven't heard a lot of the leverages which our GCC brothers. Right. I think they should keep their word and say this is the last chance for him. If he doesn't sign today, then they have got to start movement and move this case towards the Arab League, and from the Arab League to the United Nations and the world at large. We need a lot of help from the world and from the international community, because I think we have been let down very much.
All right, Mohamed Qubaty, former advisor to Yemeni PM and former Yemeni ambassador to Lebanon and Cyprus, currently political opposition activist, joining us there live from London. Thanks very much, Mr. Qubaty. A big thank you as well to Mr. Ghassan Abulahum from the Yemen Youth Movement, who was joining us on the line from Sana'a with his comments. Thanks so much for staying with us. We've run out of time for this programme, but do stay